When the nights stretch long and the silence feels weighty, when your pillow is soaked with tears unseen by anyone and your soul whispers words you can't bring yourself to say aloud, hold on to this truth. God understands your pain, and He is getting ready to intervene. You may feel overlooked. You may think the burden you carry is too much to endure. Yet the very sorrow that draws tears from your eyes is a sign that heaven is stirring. When the darkness feels endless, that is often the moment God begins His hidden work, turning your mourning into power and your trial into testimony. God has not abandoned you. He has been near through it all, counting every tear, catching every sigh, and hearing every word you couldn't speak. He knows what shattered your heart, and He knows precisely how to mend it. There are seasons when pain runs so deep that language loses its strength. People around you might not perceive it. They see resilience, not realizing you are waging unseen battles. But God notices. He sees the tears behind your laughter, the fatigue behind your persistence, and the doubts behind your prayers. You may have whispered, "Why me? Why now?" But God's timing is never uncertain. Each ache, each delay, each disappointment has been shaping and refining you for something your spirit cannot yet envision. Pain might feel like punishment, but it's not. It's preparation. God doesn't use pain to destroy you, but to develop you. Sometimes He allows you to walk through seasons of testing so your faith can become immovable. You learn in the storm what peace alone could never teach. When God moves, He doesn't simply take away your pain, He transforms it into purpose. That is the beauty of His compassion. He turns what was designed to crush you into the very foundation that strengthens you. So if you're hurting now, remember this. Your pain is not meaningless. It is sacred ground, the soil where miracles take root. Many think God is silent when they cannot sense Him. But silence does not mean absence. Silence often carries the sound of divine design. God is orchestrating things beyond your sight, even when you cannot trace His hand. At times He hides Himself, not to forsake you, but to fortify your faith. If you saw everything, there would be no need to trust. So He teaches you to walk by faith, not sight, to believe that even when you don't feel Him, He is nearer than your heartbeat. God's silence is not rejection. It is alignment. He is preparing you for something greater than you imagined. When God is about to act, the pressure often intensifies. You might find yourself standing at the edge of breaking. Everything collapses at once, relationships strain, chances vanish, doors once open suddenly close. That's not coincidence, that's contraction. Just as a mother experiences the sharpest pain before delivery, your deepest struggle often signals your greatest breakthrough. You are not being crushed, you are being delivered. The weight of your pain is evidence that something divine is about to be born. God intervenes right at the moment when it seems nothing else can be done, because He desires that all the glory belongs to Him alone. Some of you have been praying for years, yet nothing seems to shift. You've cried out to God with trembling hands and tired hearts, and still the heavens appeared silent. But listen closely, delay is not denial. God has not forgotten you. He is aligning circumstances on your behalf. There are unseen battles being fought for your good. Hearts are being softened, doors are being crafted, and paths are being prepared. God's timing is never slow, it is strategic. When He moves, everything that once seemed scattered will suddenly make sense. You'll look back and understand that the waiting was never wasted. It was the groundwork for your miracle. You see, pain often speaks the language of transformation. It teaches you to lean on God rather than your own strength. When life strips away what you thought you needed, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. God removes distractions to make room for divine direction. At times, He must dismantle your plans to reveal His purpose. The pain you feel right now might be the very instrument God is using to lead you toward what truly belongs to you. So don't despise the struggle. Embrace it as the birthplace of your resilience. The same fire that burns also refines. The same storm that terrifies you also clears your way. Think back to every moment you thought you wouldn't survive, and yet you did. That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was God quietly intervening, holding you when no one else could, carrying you when you had no strength left. Every time your heart shattered, but you kept breathing. Every time you felt drained, but still pressed on. That was God's power sustaining you. You may not have recognized His hand, but His presence never left your side. He has been in every season, weaving purpose into your pain and turning your tears into tomorrow's triumph. When God steps in, He doesn't merely alter your situation, He transforms you. He removes bitterness from your soul and fills it with peace. He trades your confusion for clarity, your fear for faith, and your despair for direction. That's why sometimes He waits, because He's not only preparing the blessing, He's preparing you to receive it. God doesn't want you crushed by the weight of what you prayed for. So He strengthens your spirit before releasing your miracle. What you see as delay is often divine protection. Right now, someone reading this feels like giving up. You've reached your limit, you've done everything you can, and wonder if it's even worth continuing. But God says, hold on. You're closer than you think. The night always feels darkest before dawn. Don't let the pain deceive you. It's not the end, it's the turning point. I'm about to step in and do what no one else can. You've come too far to surrender now. You've prayed too long, endured too much, and survived too many storms to stop here. God didn't bring you this far to leave you empty. A moment is coming when everything will shift suddenly. The tears will cease, and peace will rise within you like the first light of morning. The very people who once doubted you will witness the hand of God raising you up. The same circumstance that broke your heart will one day become your testimony. God specializes in turning pain into purpose, sorrow into strength, and loss into legacy. That is the beauty of His mercy. He never wastes your suffering. What you're facing today will one day become the reason someone else rediscovers hope. You are not being buried. You are being planted. Too often, we try to mend everything ourselves. We plan, push, and strive, and when our efforts fail, we fall into panic. But there comes a moment when you must stop struggling and allow God to fight for you. You have to release the weight of your pain and trust that He knows exactly what He's doing. God doesn't require your strength. He asks for your surrender. The instant you let go of control is the moment He begins to act. He can accomplish in a single moment what you've spent years trying to achieve. When He moves, mountains shift, chains fall, and doors once sealed swing open with ease. Some of you are walking through a dark valley right now, unable to see the light ahead. But valleys are temporary. They are transitions, not destinations. You were never meant to dwell in your pain, but to journey through it. God has already drawn the map, even if you can't perceive it yet. Sometimes the road to your promise runs straight through the wilderness. But that wilderness is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the place where your dependence on God deepens and your faith grows roots. When you emerge, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger, wiser, and more grounded in faith than ever before. When God intervenes, even the hardest heart softens and the most impossible door opens. What you believed was finished will begin anew. The relationship that fractured, the opportunity that vanished, the dream that died, God can breathe life back into all of it. You might think it's too late, but time holds no power over the one who created it. He can restore lost years in a heartbeat. He can resurrect what you thought was gone forever. So don't declare it over when God hasn't spoken yet. His silence is not defeat, it's divine setup for greater victory. You may not understand why things unfolded as they did. You might never receive every answer, but understanding is not a prerequisite for trusting God's plan. Faith isn't about knowing, it's about believing when knowledge fails. And that kind of belief unlocks the door for God to move. Pain will try to persuade you that you're alone, that no one cares, that nothing will ever change. But that's the whisper of despair, not the voice of truth. God has seen every injustice, every betrayal, every heartbreak, and He has already written the conclusion. It may not come the way you expect, but it will come exactly as you need. There is power in perseverance. When you choose to keep trusting, even as life unravels, that's when your faith becomes unshakable. God honors those who refuse to quit. Each time you say, "I don't understand, but I still trust you," you proclaim victory over fear. That declaration moves mountains in the unseen. You are not forgotten, not forsaken, not invisible. God is watching, and He is about to move with a power that will silence every doubt and wipe away every tear. Your pain has not gone unnoticed by the one who never sleeps. God has heard the prayers you whispered through your tears. He has seen the sleepless nights when you wondered how much longer you could hold on. You believed no one noticed, but He did. You thought no one cared, but His heart was moved for you. And He is not distant. He is working. Every moment you stayed strong, every second you chose not to quit has been counted. God is never late. He is exact. When He steps in, He won't just heal your wounds, He will redeem your entire story. What was meant to break you will become the very platform for your destiny. There is something holy about pain. It tears down the illusion of control and brings you face to face with your need for God. Pain humbles your spirit, softens your heart, and opens your vision. It reveals what truly matters. You stop craving recognition and start longing for peace. You stop trying to impress others and start learning who you really are. And in that sacred place of surrender, God begins to rebuild you, not the old version, but the one He originally designed you to be. When He moves, He doesn't restore the past version of you. He transforms you into the person you were called to become. So if you are exhausted, broken, or standing at the edge of hopelessness, remember this: God is not distant, He is near, closer than your next breath, and He is preparing to step in. The same power that spoke the stars into being watches over your life. He knows every scar, every sigh, every detail of your heart. You are not overlooked. You are known, cherished, and deeply loved by God Himself. The pain that tried to define you will soon refine you. The tears that once fell in weakness will return as strength. You are not ending. You are evolving under the careful eyes of the one who never fails. And when God finally intervenes, you'll understand why it took this long. You will see why certain doors had to close and why some people had to leave. You will see how every loss was necessary for your rising. You'll realize that the pain that almost destroyed you became the bridge that carried you to purpose. God never wastes pain. He reshapes it into the purest strength, a faith that trusts even when it doesn't understand. That kind of faith cannot be shaken. That kind of heart cannot be broken. That kind of soul cannot be defeated because God Himself stands beside them. Your story is far from over. You might be in the middle of chaos, but calm is on the horizon. You may feel unseen, but your name is written in the heart of the Almighty. Hold on, for God is about to step in. And when He does, everything will shift, not gradually, but suddenly. The pain will make sense. The silence will make sense. The waiting will make sense, because in that divine moment you will realize God was never late. He was always on time. preparing something far greater than you could ever imagine. So lift your head, dry your tears, and stand firm in faith. The one who knows your pain is already on his way. And when God steps in, no power on earth can halt what he is about to accomplish. There are seasons when life feels like it's crushing the breath right out of your spirit. You glance around, and everything you once leaned on has disappeared. The people you thought would never leave have drifted away. The plans you held tightly have shattered into fragments. You find yourself on your knees with nothing left to cling to but faith, whispering prayers only heaven can hear. That's when his presence becomes undeniable. Because when everything else is stripped away, you finally realize that God alone is enough. The world may disappoint you, but God never will. You may not comprehend his ways, but you can always trust his heart. He is neither cruel nor careless. Every delay, every tear, every closed door carries divine purpose. He allows what feels unbearable because he knows it will lead you somewhere far greater than you could ever dream. You see, pain carries meaning. It awakens your spirit and brings you face to face with what truly matters. It silences the noise and reveals a simple truth. Nothing in this world can fulfill you like the presence of God. He knows when to let you walk through adversity so that you learn to rely not on your own strength, not on people, not on situations, but on him alone. When you cry from the depths of your soul, you are not being ignored, you are being invited. God is calling you closer, deeper, higher. He is drawing you into a place where your faith can stand even when everything else collapses. There comes a moment in every life when faith must rise from comfort to conviction. It's easy to trust God when the path is smooth and the skies are clear. But real faith is refined in the dark when you can't see what's ahead, when the answers don't come, when hope feels thin, when the bills pile up, when the diagnosis hurts, when your heart is tired of waiting. That's when God whispers, "Do you still trust me?" And true faith responds, "Yes, even now." That is the faith that moves mountains. That is the faith that draws heaven to earth. Some of you are wondering why your prayers still seem unanswered. You've done everything you can, prayed, fasted, waited, and yet nothing appears to change. But hear this truth: unanswered prayers are never forgotten prayers. God doesn't cast your words aside. He keeps them within his divine plan. He answers at the right time in the right way for the right reason. You may not understand it now, but every delay is a setup for a greater revelation of his power. God is never early, never late. He moves exactly on time. Sometimes the greatest mercy is not receiving what you asked for too soon. If God gave you everything instantly, you might not develop the strength to sustain it. He withholds not out of anger, but out of love. He waits until you're ready, until your heart is steady, until the road is prepared, until you can carry the promise without it crushing you. God's not yet often means "I love you." When you learn to rest in his timing, peace replaces panic. You stop striving and start trusting that God is already in control. And when he finally steps in, everything shifts completely, and suddenly, what once seemed unreachable suddenly becomes effortless. The right people appear at the right time. The right doors begin to open. The opportunities you could never chase start chasing you. That's what happens when God moves. Everything falls into divine alignment that no human effort could create. He turns confusion into clarity, weakness into strength, and defeat into destiny. So don't lose heart when you feel the pressure increasing. Pressure is evidence that something powerful is about to emerge. You may not see it yet, but God has been preparing you for this moment all along. Every disappointment strengthened your endurance. Every loss deepened your compassion. Every delay refined your patience. Every heartbreak expanded your wisdom. You are not falling behind. You are being built, and soon the reason behind your struggle will stand before you as an answered prayer. God never wastes a single moment of your life. Even your failures, your wrong turns, and your regrets are being woven into His perfect design. He is the master weaver who knows how to turn even the darkest threads into beauty. There's a reason you're still here. There's a reason you didn't collapse under the weight of it all. That reason is divine. You were carried by a strength far greater than your own. While you were crying, God was comforting you. While you were fighting, He was defending you. While you were doubting, He was still working on your behalf. You may have thought the storm would destroy you, but it was actually developing you. God never permits pain without purpose. If He allows it, He intends to use it to make you stronger than before. When God steps in, He doesn't just change your circumstances, He transforms your heart. The fear that once held you captive begins to lose its grip. The anxiety that kept you awake starts to fade. The bitterness that once filled your spirit is replaced by peace. You come to realize that your worth was never determined by what happened to you, but by the one who made you. That is the miracle of divine intervention. It restores your sense of identity. It reminds you that you are not broken beyond repair. You are chosen, refined, and destined for greatness. And remember, when God steps in, it doesn't always come with noise or drama. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's subtle. It may arrive through an unexpected message, an open door, or an unexplainable peace that settles your soul. It may not come with thunder, but it will come with assurance. You'll know it's Him because everything will align in ways that reason cannot explain. That's how God operates. He doesn't always announce His movements, but His results make it unmistakably clear. When He acts, even your enemies will have to admit that it was God. There's a divine shift happening right now in your life. Even if you can't see it, the pain you're feeling is the final stretch before breakthrough. The waiting you've endured is about to turn into fulfillment. You've cried, you've persevered, and you've stayed faithful, even when walking away seemed easier. And God has seen it all. He hasn't ignored your faithfulness. He's preparing to reward it. The true reward of faith isn't just the blessing you receive, but the transformation that happens within you as you wait. You've become stronger than you ever knew. You've grown wiser, steadier, and far more resilient. And now the same God who watched you struggle in silence is preparing to lift you into a new season of peace. If you could glimpse what's ahead, you'd understand why the journey had to unfold the way it did. You'd see that God wasn't taking from you. He was making room for something greater. He wasn't breaking you. He was building you. He wasn't delaying you. He was developing you. So don't lose courage. The storm surrounding you isn't the end. It's the sign that God is near. He steps in right after the breaking point, right after the moment you feel you can't endure another breath. And when He does, every wound that once caused pain will become evidence of His power. Sometimes God allows you to reach the end of yourself so you can finally witness the beginning of Him. When your plans collapse and your strength runs out, that's when His power takes over. You begin to find peace that defies logic, hope that refuses to die, and faith that cannot be shaken. That's the gift of surrender, not giving up, but yielding to God's divine wisdom. When you stop resisting His process, He starts moving freely in your life. And the moment He moves, everything begins to shift in your favor. Many mistake pain for punishment, but pain is often God's way of getting your attention, a divine alarm awakening you to purpose. He uses discomfort to push you out of what's familiar so you can walk into what's extraordinary. You were never meant to remain stuck. That's why certain things no longer feel right, why certain environments no longer fit, and why certain people have drifted away. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God is creating a place that aligns with your growth. When He steps in, you'll realize that separation was necessary for your elevation. You must remember, God sees the entire masterpiece while you only see a single brushstroke. You see the pain of now, but He sees the purpose that's coming. You see confusion in the moment, but He sees the completion of His plan. That's why He calls you to trust Him even when it doesn't make sense. Faith means believing the author of your story knows exactly how it ends. You don't have to read every chapter to be confident it concludes in victory. And it will, because God always finishes what He begins. When He steps in, He doesn't just restore what was lost, He multiplies it. He gives back more than you ever imagined. The years that pain stole will be redeemed with peace. The tears you cried in sorrow will return as blessings. That's the beauty of divine restoration. It doesn't merely fix what was broken, it transforms it into something better than before. So don't linger too long in mourning over what's gone, because God is preparing to replace it with something far greater. You might not see how yet, but you will. And while you wait, learn to worship. Learn to speak words of faith even when your heart is trembling. Learn to say, God, I trust you, even when you don't understand. For those words of faith move heaven itself. They draw divine attention. They remind your soul that pain does not define you, purpose does. The greatest display of strength is to praise God while standing in the middle of the storm. That sound makes the impossible bow and surrender. That declaration invites the presence of God to move on your behalf. Never measure God's nearness by your level of comfort. He is not only the God of the mountain, He is also the God of the valley. He walks with you through the fire, not always removing the flames, but ensuring they never consume you. Every hardship you've faced has been shaping the person you're meant to become. Nothing you've gone through will ever be wasted. God will use every scar as proof of survival and every wound as a window through which His glory shines. The world may notice your pain, but God recognizes your purpose. And that purpose is about to unfold when you least anticipate it. God will step into your circumstance and turn what seemed impossible into reality. He will make a path where there was none. He will open doors no one can close. He will bring calm to the chaos and clarity to the confusion. And when it happens, it will happen suddenly, because that's how God moves. Silently, powerfully, perfectly. You will stand in awe, realizing that every delay carried divine purpose. Every tear had meaning. Every waiting season was preparing you for this sacred moment. So keep walking, even if your steps tremble. Keep believing, even when doubt whispers. Keep standing, even when your knees grow weak, because just beyond this pain, God's hand is reaching toward you. And when He steps in, every weight will lift, every chain will break, and every unanswered question will be replaced with peace. God sees your pain. He knows your struggle. And He is about to intervene, not to give you everything you ask for, but to provide exactly what your soul needs, precisely when you need it. So now comes the question, what will you do with the pain you carry? Will you let it define you, or will you allow it to draw you closer to Him? Every wound is a whisper calling you toward God. Every unanswered prayer, every restless night, every hidden tear is an invitation to deeper trust. God never wastes pain. He uses it to awaken your spirit, to remind you that you were not created for defeat, but for victory through faith. There comes a moment when you stop asking, "Why me?" and begin declaring, "God, I'm ready to learn what this is teaching me." That shift marks the beginning of transformation. That surrender is where divine strength starts to flow. Look into your heart right now. Lay it all before Him. The fear, the frustration, the confusion, the sorrow, stop pretending you can carry it alone. You were never meant to. God is waiting for your surrender, not your perfection. He doesn't ask you to understand everything. He asks you to trust Him through everything. Trust that He sees what you cannot. Trust that He's working even when life feels senseless. Trust that His hands remain steady even when your world shakes. That trust is the bridge that carries you from pain to peace. Let this be the day you choose to walk differently. Let this be the moment you stop running from your battles and start running toward God. If your heart feels heavy, tell Him. If your faith feels faint, confess it. If you've been distant, come home. There is no disgrace in being broken. There is only grace waiting to rebuild what has fallen apart. God meets you not at the height of your strength, but at the depth of your weakness. And in that sacred encounter, everything shifts. You realize that the very pain that tried to break you becomes the undeniable proof that God has never left your side. Do not live as if your suffering is meaningless. Do not let bitterness rob you of the lesson that pain was designed to teach. Instead, open your heart to the quiet wisdom God has been whispering through your tears. Every struggle is a classroom. Every disappointment is an open door. Every season of despair is an opportunity to see God's faithfulness in a deeper way. When you allow Him to step in, He gathers the shattered pieces of your life and shapes them into something whole, something sacred, something strong enough to stand through every storm. So rise up, lift your eyes toward heaven, and remember the source of your strength. Speak faith even when your voice shakes. Keep moving forward even when the road is unclear. You are not forgotten, not unseen, not forsaken. The God who placed the stars in the sky knows your name. The one who commands the winds also commands your destiny. He is not finished with your story. What feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something greater, a story written by the Almighty, sealed by His mercy, and carried by His promise. Let your life from this moment on be a testimony of endurance, faith, and surrender. Let your pain remind you that you are still being molded for purpose. Let your scars stand as evidence of victories won through divine strength. Walk forward with your head high, knowing that the same God who allowed the storm will also bring the calm. Choose to believe that not a single tear has fallen unnoticed, not one prayer has gone unheard, not one act of faith has been wasted. You have been held, sustained, and strengthened by a power that never fails. So take a deep breath, stand tall, and whisper to your soul, God knows my pain, and He is stepping in. Believe it with every fiber of your being. Let that truth anchor deep within your spirit. For when you truly believe it, fear will give way to peace. Weakness will give birth to strength, and hope will spring back to life in the very places that once felt lifeless. You will walk not by sight but by faith, and your life will stand as undeniable proof that when God steps in, everything changes. My friend, there are times in life when everything feels still, almost too still. The prayers you've whispered for years seem to linger unanswered. The doors you've been knocking on stay closed, and the road you've been walking appears endless. You begin to question, has God overlooked me? Has He turned His ear away from my cry? But let me remind you, with every fiber of my being, God has not forgotten you. He has been moving quietly, preparing something powerful. And right now, in this very moment, God is ready to act mightily in your life. The silence you've endured isn't His absence. It's His preparation for the miracle that's about to be revealed. When God moves, He doesn't ask for approval. He doesn't wait for circumstances to cooperate or people to agree. When God steps in, He overturns human plans, tears down walls of resistance, and transforms what once seemed impossible into undeniable reality. You may not notice it yet, But the unseen hand of God has already begun aligning things in your favor. Every delay you've faced, every tear you've shed, every battle you've fought, it was never wasted. God has been strengthening your faith, refining your spirit, and positioning you for the new season ahead. You are standing on the brink of a divine shift. There is something holy about the moments just before God moves. They often come wrapped in waiting, discomfort, or even loss. God allows what no longer serves His purpose to fall away. He shakes the ground so that what is weak will collapse and what is eternal will remain. You may have thought you were losing everything, but in truth, God was removing what couldn't go where He's leading you. Don't confuse the shaking with destruction. It's construction. God is restructuring your life to make space for something far greater than you could ever dream of. Sometimes God must strip away everything you once depended on so that when He blesses you, you'll know it was His doing alone. That's why you've endured lonely nights. That's why doors closed when you expected them to open. That's why people you trusted walked away. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God removed what would have hindered your purpose. He saw the full picture while you only saw a fragment. And though it may not make sense right now, one day you'll look back and understand that every heartbreak, every delay, and every disappointment was divine preparation for His mighty move. God isn't finished with you yet. You may feel weary from life's storms, but those storms were never meant to destroy you. They were designed to build your faith. You've cried enough tears for a lifetime, but not one was wasted. They watered the soil where your blessing is about to bloom. God witnessed every silent prayer, every sleepless night, every moment you nearly gave up. And He's saying to you now, hold on, I'm about to move. What's been still will start to shift. What's been postponed will speed up. What's been shattered will be restored. God is about to show you why you had to wait, why you had to walk alone, and why the tests were so fierce. Because when God moves, He doesn't do small things. He doesn't merely open a door, He builds an entirely new path. He doesn't just give you enough, He gives you overflow. He doesn't just alter your situation, He transforms you through it. You are no longer the same person you were when this journey began. God has been shaping your character, cultivating your patience, and deepening your faith. You've become stronger, wiser, and more steadfast because of what you've endured. That strength isn't random, it's preparation. God empowers those He intends to elevate. There's a reason your spirit feels unsettled lately. That stirring inside you, that quiet awareness that something significant is near, isn't imagination, it's confirmation. Your soul recognizes what your eyes cannot yet behold. You are discerning the spiritual wind shifting. God is about to release a breakthrough that will leave no doubt it was His doing. The very circumstances that appeared against you will turn for your good. Those who question you will witness God lift you beyond comprehension, not for your glory, but for His name to be glorified. When God acts, He silences every voice that spoke against you. He uncovers every falsehood whispered in secret. He brings justice to every wrong done to you. You won't need to fight for validation. God will defend you. You won't need to pursue opportunities. He will bring them before you. You won't need to beg for what's already yours. He will release it at the appointed time. God has a way of making the impossible appear effortless. All He asks is that you trust Him through the waiting, even when the waiting feels unbearable. Faith isn't easy when the path is dark. It's not simple to keep believing when everything seems still. Yet in those exact moments, God is closest. He hides His hand so you'll learn to trust His heart. He delays the answer so your faith can grow mature. And when your heart is ready, He moves suddenly. That's the rhythm of divine timing. It feels slow until it happens, and then it seems instant. but it was never sudden to God. He's been arranging everything behind the scenes, waiting for the perfect moment to unveil what He's been building. So don't lose heart over what you see right now. Don't measure your future by your present situation. God specializes in divine reversals. One touch of His favor can accomplish more than years of effort. One word from Him can completely shift your destiny. One move of His hand can take you from forgotten to chosen, from weary to renewed, from broken to whole. You may have been walking through a barren season, but that desert is about to bloom. God is breathing life into the dry places of your soul. He's turning your scarcity into abundance and your mourning into celebration. There are blessings with your name on them that have been delayed, not denied, simply reserved. God was waiting for you to be ready to carry the weight of what you asked for. Some prayers from years ago weren't unanswered. They were postponed because they would have overwhelmed you then. But now, after all you've faced, you're prepared. Your heart is humble, your focus is refined, and your spirit is steady. You can now bear the blessing. And because you've remained faithful in the little things, God is about to entrust you with much greater ones. The movement of God isn't always thunderous. Sometimes it begins softly, like a whisper in your soul, a quiet peace, a door opening without warning. Don't ignore those small beginnings. They're the first signs of something miraculous. They're often the seeds of something extraordinary. The same God who divides seas also speaks through silence. The same God who moves mountains also reshapes hearts. He's been softening your spirit, aligning your thoughts, and preparing you to receive what's ahead. And when that moment comes, you'll understand perfectly why you had to walk through what you did. You may not notice it, but even in your hardship, you've been a living testimony. The way you kept moving forward despite the pain, the way you remained gentle when others were harsh, the way you refused to surrender when everything inside you wanted to. That quiet perseverance was seen by God, and He's about to honor that faithfulness. People may not know the wars you fought in secret, but God knows every one. He witnessed every time you chose faith over fear, patience over anger, hope over despair. Those hidden choices built the solid ground heaven can now bless. Sometimes God waits until every earthly solution has failed before He intervenes. So when the miracle happens, there's no doubt about who deserves the glory. You may be standing right there now at the edge of your strength, holding on to nothing but God Himself. That's exactly where miracles begin. The end of your ability is the beginning of His authority. When you release control, God steps in. When you stop striving to fix it yourself, He begins to move. That's why surrender isn't weakness, it's divine wisdom. You're not giving up, you're giving it over to Him. And when God starts to move, it won't be through your effort, but through His grace. Doors you couldn't unlock will suddenly open. People who once overlooked you will feel led to help you. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable will emerge from unexpected places. It won't make sense to human logic, but your spirit will know it wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence, it was God. He planned it, He arranged it, He made it happen. Some of you have walked through such long seasons of silence that you've forgotten what real hope feels like. You've adapted to disappointment, teaching yourself not to expect too much so you won't get hurt again. But today, I say to you, lift your eyes, believe again, hope again, expect again. The silence is breaking, the drought is ending, the wind is shifting. God is breathing new life into the places you thought were gone forever. Don't stay in sorrow when God is inviting you into renewal. You are not forgotten and you are not forsaken. The same God who hung the stars has written your name into His purpose. He knows exactly where you are, and He knows how to lead you to where you're meant to be. Stop worrying about the process. Stop calculating what you can't control. Just remain faithful. Keep doing good even when no one notices. Keep believing when it doesn't add up. Keep praying even when the words fall out with tears. because your faith is unlocking something mighty in the unseen realm. God is responding to your endurance. He's about to restore what was lost. He's preparing to repay what was stolen. What you thought was the end was only a pause. God never finishes with loss. He finishes with restoration. You will not walk away empty-handed. Every tear you've sown in faith will return as joy. Every act of obedience will come back multiplied. Every door that's shut was replaced with one greater than you could have dreamed. You will witness the goodness of God in the land of the living. There are moments when God moves not only for you, but also through you. Your breakthrough becomes the spark of hope for someone else. Your story becomes a testimony that rekindles faith in others. The way you've endured with grace has already inspired more hearts than you realize. That's the way God operates. He turns pain into purpose, hardship into strength, and trials into transformation. He never wastes a single moment. Even your mistakes are woven into His plan. He uses everything to draw you closer to your divine destiny. So don't despise the path that led you here. Every valley, every delay, every unanswered prayer carried purpose. God has been shaping you into someone who can handle His blessings with wisdom and humility. The very moments you thought disqualified you were the ones preparing you. The pain you feared would break you actually built you. You are stronger than you've ever known because God has been your foundation through every storm. Now is the time to rise with bold faith. Speak it with assurance. God is about to move powerfully in my life. Say it until your spirit believes it. Declare it until the atmosphere around you shifts. Because faith spoken with conviction carries divine power. The moment your words align with belief, heaven begins to move. God responds to expectation. He manifests where faith abides. And right now, your faith is being positioned for fulfillment. Regardless of what your situation looks like, remember this: God's power isn't bound by human timelines. What takes man a lifetime can take God only a moment. One divine touch can erase years of struggle. One act of favor can rewrite your entire story. The same God who split the sea, who raised the humble to honor, who made barren fields blossom, He is the same God preparing to move in your life. And when He does, nothing will remain the same. You may not know how, you may not know when, but you can be certain it will happen. Because God's promises never return void. They may linger, but they never fail. If you've been clinging to a promise, keep holding. If you've been praying for a sign, keep praying. If you've been waiting for guidance, stay still. The movement is coming. The clouds are gathering. The divine shift is already turning in your favor. God is transforming your waiting room into a birthing room. The next season of your life will not resemble the last. The heaviness that weighed you down is lifting. The confusion that blurred your vision is clearing. The barriers that blocked your way are being removed. You're not going backward, you're about to accelerate forward. You're not at the end, you're standing at the dawn of something holy. God is setting you up for a victory that cannot be explained, only witnessed. Even when you can't feel it, trust that He's working. Even when you can't see it, trust His timing. Even when evidence seems absent, trust His word. Because God's movement doesn't depend on your circumstances, it's anchored in His unshakable promise. And His promise over your life still stands. You are stepping into a season where what once felt heavy will feel light, and what once was withheld will now be released. Where what once was hidden will now be revealed. You'll walk through doors you never even knocked on. You'll receive blessings you didn't even request. That's what happens when God moves in power. He overwhelms you with goodness you didn't earn, but were always destined to receive. So lift your head, strengthen your spirit, and prepare your heart, because the very thing you've been praying for is nearer than you imagine. The night is fading and the dawn is rising. God is moving and nothing can stand in His way. What He's about to do in your life will silence every doubt, astonish every adversary, and restore every broken place. Stand firm in faith and watch what God will do. You've waited long enough. The movement is here. The breakthrough is here. The mighty hand of God is about to move in your life like never before. There comes a moment when your soul senses that something sacred is about to unfold. You may not find the words to describe it, but deep within you feel a pull, a stirring, a divine restlessness. That is not emotion. It's destiny whispering. It's God preparing to shift the atmosphere around you. The same unseen power that governs the heavens is now aligning circumstances in your favor. Doors once sealed shut are about to swing wide. The ground that once felt barren beneath your feet is about to bear fruit. God is orchestrating a powerful movement in your life, and no earthly force can hinder it. When God decides to act, every obstacle turns into a stepping stone. The very forces that tried to restrain you will become the ones that propel you forward. The pain you endured wasn't punishment, it was passage. The nights you wept in silence weren't ignored, they were remembered. God has witnessed every act of patience, every sacrifice, every quiet surrender. He has collected each one like a precious seed, and now the season of harvest is drawing near. The blessings that once seemed distant are coming closer. The delays that tested your endurance are now being redeemed through divine timing. Sometimes the waiting feels unbearable because God isn't just preparing your blessing, He's preparing you for the blessing. A mighty move requires a steady spirit. God cannot pour abundance into a heart still ruled by fear. That's why He allowed certain things to be taken away. That's why He removed you from comfort zones that no longer served your growth. He needed to anchor your faith in Him alone. He wanted your reliance, not on people, not on systems, not even on your own strength, but on Him, the one who holds the entire universe in His hands. You may have lost what you thought was essential, but you did not lose what truly matters. You still have faith. You still have purpose. You still have breath in your lungs, and that means God is not done with you yet. As long as you have breath, you still have destiny. You may not see the entire picture, but the painter does. Every brushstroke, even the dark ones, carries meaning. The shadows are what give the masterpiece its depth. God is painting something glorious in your life, and when He finishes, every struggle will find its reason. There's a divine rhythm in how God moves first. He separates, then He shakes, and finally He reveals. When God separates you, it's to protect you. When He shakes you, it's to awaken you. And when He reveals, it's to elevate you. Each phase feels painful because it dismantles the old to make room for the new. But if you endure the process, you'll discover that everything you lost was simply making room for something greater. God never removes without intending to multiply. Every ending in your story is merely the introduction to a far better beginning. The movement of God often hides within moments of disruption. What you perceive as chaos, He defines as creation. What appears to you as a breakdown, He sees as the birth of a breakthrough. When life feels like it's spinning out of control, it's not falling apart, it's falling into alignment. God is rearranging the structure of your life so that every blessing can locate you. The storms that seemed designed to destroy you were actually delivering the rain your soul required. You thought you were drowning, but you were being purified. You thought you were lost, but God was redirecting your path. You thought you were forgotten, but He was composing a new chapter. When God moves, He acts in a way that leaves no room for anyone else to claim the glory. He orchestrates moments that make you stand in awe, whispering, "Only God could have done this." You'll recognize it's His hand because it may not make sense logically, but it will bring peace beyond understanding. That same peace that surpasses reason will guard your heart and keep you anchored while everything around you shifts. That's how you'll know the hand of God is upon you. It brings stillness in the midst of transition. There are seasons when God tests your faith, not to expose weakness, but to prove your strength. He already knows the outcome. The test is for you to reveal what's within you. Resilience, endurance, and a depth of perseverance you never realized you possessed. Every trial has been a classroom for your spirit. You've learned to pray with more purpose, to wait with greater wisdom, and to trust on a deeper level. None of it was wasted. Those lessons have been preparing you for the mighty move that's drawing near. You see, when God is about to move powerfully, He first begins by transforming your mindset. He removes the old habits that no longer serve your calling. He exposes the lies you once accepted about yourself. He trains you to view life through spiritual eyes rather than natural ones. Because before God changes your situation, He reshapes your perception. He reminds you that faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the courage to move forward despite it. Faith isn't about seeing the entire staircase. It's about stepping onto the first step, trusting that He's already placed the next one ahead. Many of you have been asking, when will my breakthrough arrive? But God is asking, are you ready to receive it? Because a powerful move requires a prepared heart. You can't pour fresh blessings into a vessel that's unready. God's movement is never random, it's intentional. He won't release a promise before it's time. But when that moment arrives, He will move so suddenly that your past pain will fade beneath the brilliance of His glory. What took years to construct will shift in seconds. What once seemed impossible will become inevitable. God is not restrained by human logic, natural law, or public opinion. He can overturn diagnoses, restore reputations, rebuild shattered dreams, and resurrect what was declared dead. He can bring light into the darkest places, hope into despair, and divine order into chaos. Nothing lies beyond His reach, because when God moves, limits cease to exist. No mistake is too great for His mercy, and no circumstance is too complicated for His wisdom. When He moves, everything aligns with His will. Even the winds and the waves submit to His command. Sometimes the move of God doesn't start with thunder, it begins with a whisper. It begins with a quiet nudge in your heart to forgive, to release, to trust, to hope again. Don't ignore those gentle whispers. They are the first ripples of a coming wave. The most powerful moves of God often begin with quiet obedience. A single act of surrender can redirect an entire destiny. One moment of courage can open doors that generations after you will walk through. Never underestimate the power of one step taken in faith. There will be moments when you feel unprepared, when your own insecurities whisper that you're not ready, not capable, not strong enough. But God doesn't call those who are already qualified. He qualifies those He calls. If He chose you, He will equip you. If He gave you the vision, He will also provide the provision. Stop doubting your worthiness and start trusting His divine wisdom. God never makes mistakes in His selection. The very weaknesses you try to hide are the very places where His glory will shine brightest. You don't need to understand every detail of what God is orchestrating. You only need to trust that He's doing it for your good. Every door that closed was divine protection. Every delay was divine redirection. Every loss was divine correction. Nothing in your journey has been wasted. God has been weaving purpose through every thread, even the painful ones. The fabric of your life may look messy up close, but when He reveals it from His vantage point, you'll see beauty beyond measure. Don't let the weight of what hasn't happened blind you to the promise that's unfolding. God didn't bring you this far to leave you stranded in uncertainty. He's led you through storms, through valleys, through waiting and through pain, not to abandon you, but to anchor you. The same God who led you through the wilderness will guide you into your promised land. The path may twist and turn, but it still leads to destiny. When God decides to move, He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't negotiate with resistance. He doesn't explain Himself to skeptics. He simply acts and creation obeys. Mountains bow, rivers part, hearts soften, and destinies are revealed. That's the power of divine movement. It cannot be halted, delayed, or denied. What God has ordained for you will reach you, no matter how far you've fallen or how long you've waited. His timing is flawless, His strength is boundless, and His plans are unstoppable. You may be in a season of pressure, but pressure is evidence of an imminent breakthrough. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Oil flows only when olives are crushed. The tallest trees grow firmest when the wind blows hardest. The pressure you're feeling isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's proof that something valuable is being birthed within you. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. And when God unveils what He's been cultivating inside you, the world will witness the reward of your endurance. This is not the time to surrender. This is the time to stand tall, to declare truth, to believe fearlessly. You've come too far to turn back now. The move of God isn't a faraway dream, it's already at your doorstep. Every challenge has led to this moment. Every tear has watered the soil of your faith. Every prayer has been stored in heaven, waiting to pour down at the appointed time. The atmosphere around you is shifting because God has declared it is time. Lift your eyes from what went wrong and fix them on what God is making right. Stop replaying the past, because the future He's crafting is far greater. He's already written your future. Stop worrying about how it will unfold. He's already prepared the way. The same God who commanded light to shine out of darkness is speaking over your life right now, declaring, "It is finished." And when He speaks, creation listens. Get ready for transformation, because when God moves, everything shifts. The things that once limited you will lose their grip. The burdens that once felt unbearable will lift. The path that once seemed blocked will open wide. The heart that once carried heaviness will be filled with peace. The confusion that clouded your thoughts will turn into divine clarity. The chains that once held you down will fall, not by your might, but by the power of God's hand. There's a reason your spirit feels like it's standing on the edge of something new. You're not imagining it. God is drawing closer. The signs are everywhere: subtle changes, divine appointments, quiet moments of peace that make no sense in the middle of chaos. Pay attention. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The same hand that carried you through the valley is now lifting you to higher ground. And when God begins to move in your life, never forget your beginnings. Stay humble. Stay thankful. Remember the lessons learned in the wilderness when you step into promise. Remember the nights of tears and prayer when you walk in answered blessings. Gratitude will keep your heart clean and your spirit in alignment. God's blessings are not rewards for perfection. They are expressions of grace, and grace expands in a thankful heart. The mighty movement of God isn't just about shifting your circumstances, it's about transforming your inner being. He's not blessing you merely to elevate you. He's blessing you so you can uplift others. You will become a vessel through which others witness His glory. The light He is about to ignite within you will shine far beyond your reach. It will heal, inspire, and awaken hearts to the truth that with God, nothing is impossible. So hold your head high, inhale deeply. You are standing in the divine current of change. What's coming will surpass everything you've lost. What lies ahead will give meaning to what's behind. The very place that once broke you will become the place that blesses you. And when it happens, when God moves mightily on your behalf, you'll understand why every season, every struggle, and every silence was necessary. Because His movement always arrives right on time, not early, not delayed, but divinely precise. My friend, this is your moment to rise with faith blazing in your heart. You have heard His whisper. You have felt the stirring within. You know deep down that His hand is near. So stand tall. Shake off the dust of disappointment. Lift your eyes beyond the shadows of fear. This is your moment to realign your soul with the One who formed you, to open your heart and declare, God, I am ready. Move as you desire. Lead me where you will. I trust you completely. Because when you surrender your plans to God, His power flows freely through your life. The walls that once trapped you will crumble, and the path that seemed closed will open like dawn breaking over a dark horizon. Do not let your faith remain silent any longer. Speak, believe, and watch the impossible unfold. Speak what you believe. Walk as though the promise has already come to pass. Let your thoughts mirror trust, and let your actions reveal obedience. Faith without motion is simply hope waiting for bravery. But when you dare to step forward on what you believe, you declare to the heavens that your trust in God is greater than your fear of uncertainty. That is when the miraculous begins to take shape. God responds to hearts that lean toward Him. He fills the lives of those who dare to walk into the unseen, trusting that His presence is enough to illuminate every step. Search your heart tonight. Ask yourself, am I truly ready for God to move? Because His movement doesn't just shift your surroundings, it transforms you. It awakens the parts of your soul that had been sleeping. It will call for courage where you once clung to comfort. It will ask for forgiveness where bitterness once took root. It will demand surrender where control once reigned. But oh, the peace that follows when you finally stop striving and let God take His rightful place in your heart. The storm within begins to still. You come to realize that what you were chasing was never the answer, it was always Him. You may not be able to rewrite the past, but you can choose how to move forward. Today, you can decide to stop living under the shadow of what went wrong and start walking in the light of what God is making right. The moment you choose to trust Him completely, heaven takes notice. The moment you open your heart to His will, new strength floods your soul. You were never meant to live trapped in anxiety. You were never designed to dwell in regret. You were created for communion with the One who sustains every heartbeat, commands every sunrise, and holds every possibility in His hands. That is where peace is found, in the quiet assurance that God is enough. So release the fear that has held you hostage. Let go of the doubts that have chained your spirit. Step into the freedom of faith. You've carried the weight long enough. Now it's time to lay it at His feet. The same God who shaped the mountains and silenced the seas can calm the storm within you. You don't have to shoulder everything alone. Trust Him with your dreams, your pain, your questions, and your future. Trust that even when you can't see the way ahead, His wisdom is already paving it. God is calling you higher, to walk boldly into the life He's prepared for you. The moment you say, I surrender not because I'm defeated, but because I give it to you, the shift begins. That's when peace replaces panic. That's when clarity overtakes confusion. That's when strength rises from weariness. Your heart was never designed to carry control. It was created to rest in trust. And when you trust God, you carry a power that fear cannot touch. Look around you, the winds are changing. What once felt heavy will soon be lifted. What once seemed distant will soon draw near. The move of God is not coming, it's already in motion. You are part of it. Every breath, every heartbeat, every choice to believe instead of fear aligns you with divine purpose. Don't wait for another sign. The sign is already within you, the quiet assurance that whispers, God is here and He's not done with me. So rise now in faith. Walk with a heart that believes in what it cannot see and a spirit anchored in hope. Let your words shine with light. Let your life become living proof of what it means to trust God completely. Live with such peace that others see His reflection in your calm. Love with such depth that bitterness cannot take root. Move with such conviction that the world will know when God moves in a life, nothing stays the same. And when morning comes, wake with purpose. When you speak, speak with faith. When you walk, walk with courage, for the Almighty is moving in ways beyond your sight. Stand in awe, walk in humility, and live in holy expectation. Because the same God who hung the stars is writing your story, and His movement in your life will leave behind a legacy of light that will never fade. Trust Him now. Yield completely. Believe beyond what you can see, and let your soul rest in this unshakable truth. When God moves, everything changes, and when you allow Him to move through you, the world around you transforms. When God begins to position someone for blessings, everything in their world starts to shift. The atmosphere of their life begins to transform. The things that once felt stable start to tremble. Doors they once leaned on begin to close. People they used to depend on quietly step away. The familiar turns uncomfortable, and what was once easy becomes strange. It is within that tension that God begins His most powerful work. My friend, if you are walking through a season of silence, confusion, or pressure, listen carefully. What you might be calling a problem, heaven is calling preparation. What looks like loss could be the soil for your increase. What feels like rejection might be divine redirection. When God is ready to bless you, He first prepares your heart to carry that blessing. One of the greatest dangers in life is to receive what you are not mature enough to handle. That is why God refines before He releases. He tests before He trusts. He shapes your spirit before He shows His power. Many people pray for blessings but rarely understand the weight that accompanies them. Blessings are not just rewards, they are responsibilities. And God, in His wisdom, will never pour something sacred into a heart that is still proud. So if it feels like you are in God's waiting room, don't lose faith. Waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation. Silence isn't absence, it's divine strategy. Hiddenness is not rejection, it's protection. The first sign that God is getting you ready for blessings is when He begins to detach you from what once defined your comfort. You'll sense a holy separation happening. Suddenly, you no longer fit where you used to belong. The conversations that once excited you now feel empty. The habits that once brought pleasure now unsettle your spirit. The relationships that once held you up start to fade. And you ask God, what is happening to me? It's not that you're losing your life, it's that you're shedding your old layer. God is pulling you away from what's common to prepare you for what's sacred. He cannot elevate you while you're still attached to what limits you. Separation always comes before elevation. When God starts separating you, it can hurt. You may wonder why people change, why chances close, or why your path narrows. But remember this, God isn't taking away to wound you, He's removing to refine you. Too many attachments can block your ability to hear His whisper. When He wants to speak clearly, He clears the noise. The path to blessing often runs through the wilderness of solitude. There, God strips away opinions, distractions, and dependencies that cloud your soul. You may cry, wrestle, or question, but those tears are watering the ground for your next season. Every tear carries purpose when it falls within God's plan. The second sign that God is preparing you for blessings is that He will test your patience. God's timing is never bound by human urgency. He moves with wisdom, not with haste. Waiting seasons are sacred. They teach you how to trust when nothing seems to move. It's easy to trust God when doors open and prayers are answered. But can you still believe when everything stands still? Can you keep faith when progress is invisible? God measures faith not by the volume of your praise, but by the strength of your endurance. Patience is the classroom where true maturity is learned. Many people lose their blessing not because it was never coming, but because they gave up before it arrived. God often conceals your blessing to test your endurance. He wants to know whether your faith stands on emotion or conviction. If your hope can survive the silence, then you are positioned to receive. Every delay in God's timeline carries divine intention. What appears to be postponement is often protection. What feels like slow motion is sometimes accelerated preparation. God allows you to wait so you can learn to walk by faith rather than sight. He stretches your patience so that your character can grow to meet your calling. The third sign that God is preparing you for blessings is when He unveils what lies hidden within you. God does not bless pretending, He blesses authenticity. Before He releases abundance, He reveals weakness. Before He brings increase, He purifies intention. Sometimes He allows pressure to touch your life so that the areas still needing healing can surface. It might show up through conflict, disappointment, or loss. These are not random hardships. They are divine tools of refinement. The furnace of testing exposes the impurities in your soul so that your heart can be pure before the blessing arrives. You might notice yourself reacting in surprising ways: anger, insecurity, or doubt. But these emotions aren't meant to condemn you. They are meant to reveal where God is still doing His work. Blessings require purity of heart. If your spirit carries resentment, jealousy, or pride, those blessings can quickly become burdens. God loves you too deeply to let that happen. So He will uncover every hidden weight that might sabotage what He wants to release. When these things rise to the surface, don't run away. Let God refine you. Let Him cleanse you. Because when His work is complete, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and ready. Some people desire promotion without purification, but the higher God lifts you, the deeper your roots must go. And that foundation is formed in the quiet space of reflection and repentance. God will allow you to see yourself clearly so you can surrender what no longer belongs in your spirit. Preparation for blessing is rarely glamorous. It is raw, honest, and humbling. Yet those who yield to the process rise with authority instead of arrogance. They become the ones who carry the weight of glory without being crushed by it. The fourth sign that God is preparing you for blessings is when He begins to expand your faith. There will come a moment when He calls you out of the familiar and asks you to trust Him in ways you never have before. He may tell you to move with no visible evidence. He may tell you to build when there are no resources in sight. He will challenge you to believe for what looks impossible. That stretching isn't punishment, it's preparation. Faith matures only when it's exercised. If everything made sense, faith would have no purpose. But God rewards those who choose to trust Him even in the dark. You may feel the tension between reason and faith pulling at your heart. One voice says, "Wait until you see it." Another whispers, "Step forward because you believe it." That inner conflict is the birthplace of miracles. God stretches your faith to prepare you for the magnitude of His promise. Small faith cannot sustain great favor. You cannot walk in extraordinary purpose while clinging to ordinary belief. So he will ask you to take a risk, to obey, to trust, even when nothing makes sense. And when you do, heaven starts to move in harmony with your obedience. Faith is not an emotion, it is a deliberate choice to trust God even when circumstances contradict His promise. The world may call it foolish, but faith is the currency of divine exchange. When you act in faith, you declare that God's word outweighs your fear. You are saying, I will step forward because God said move, even if my eyes cannot yet see the path. And in that moment of surrender, something begins to shift. The same God who calls you out will never abandon you. He will part the waters, open the gates, and create a way where none existed. The fifth sign that God is preparing you for blessings is when peace begins to fill your soul right in the midst of chaos. This peace is not born from your situation. It flows from your intimacy with God. You may still be fighting battles, yet you no longer feel unsettled by them. You may still have prayers waiting for answers, yet there is an inner calm reminding you that God remains in control. That peace is not passive, it is proof. It is the quiet confirmation that what you have been praying for is already being orchestrated in the unseen. When peace takes root in your heart, it shows that your faith has matured. It means you are no longer led by panic, but by purpose. You have learned to rest in God's timing, to release what you can't manage, and to trust what you can't see. That peace is the bridge between preparation and fulfillment. When God sees that you can stay calm in the storm, He knows you are ready to receive what comes after it. Many assume blessings appear when life is perfect, but that's not how God works. He blesses those who praise Him in the process. He releases favor to those who hold on through the fight. The peace that fills your heart in the middle of struggle is not weakness. It is a weapon. It guards your mind against fear, your heart against despair, and your vision against doubt. That peace whispers that the waiting season is nearing its end, that the refining is finished, and that the blessing is on its way. You see, preparation for blessing is not about what you receive, it's about who you become. God isn't focused on changing your surroundings first. He's transforming your spirit, because when the blessing arrives, you must be strong enough to carry it and humble enough to honor Him with it. Every delay, every tear, every trial has been working toward that very purpose. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. When you look back, you'll realize that every disappointment was divine direction. Every closed door was mercy. Every lonely night was a classroom. Every waiting season was a rehearsal for the moment God would pour out His abundance. What you are facing right now is not the conclusion, it's confirmation that something greater is being prepared for you. God never wastes pain. He never allows struggle without purpose. He is shaping, molding, and strengthening you. And when the appointed time comes, He will release what your heart has long desired. If you find yourself in that place today, tired, unsure, or waiting, remember this truth: God has not forgotten you. The very fact that you are being tested means you are being trusted. The silence that unsettles you may actually be heaven's way of saying, be still. The blessing is almost ready. Don't quit during the preparation stage. Don't walk away when you're closest to breakthrough. God's blessings demand endurance. The moment you assume nothing is happening might be the very second heaven is setting everything in place. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are being prepared. God's blessings are never random. They are strategic, precise, and intentional. And when they finally come, they will fit your life perfectly. Every hardship you endured will suddenly make sense. Every tear will reveal its purpose. Every prayer will find its fulfillment. Then you will understand that God was never late. He was waiting until you were ready. Stay consistent. Keep your heart pure. Keep your faith steady. Keep your peace protected, because the same God who separated you, refined you, tested you, stretched you, and calmed you is the same God who is about to bless you beyond imagination. The waiting was not wasted. The silence was not meaningless. God has been preparing you not to give you something ordinary, but to trust you with something extraordinary. Hold on to faith when everything feels uncertain. Keep walking even when the road seems unclear. Believe that every challenge is shaping you for something divine. And when the blessing finally arrives, and it will, you will stand not as the same person who entered the fire, but as one who emerged refined, strong, and ready to carry what God has designed for you. The preparation will always feel longer than the promise, but the promise will always outweigh the pain. Keep trusting, because God is preparing you to receive blessings that will overflow into every area of your life. When God prepares someone for blessing, He never rushes. He moves like a master craftsman, carving, molding, and polishing until every detail of your life aligns with His purpose. The world celebrates speed, but God values depth. He takes His time because He is not only blessing your circumstance, He is building your foundation. A blessing that arrives too early can collapse under unready hands. That's why God slows your pace, not to delay destiny, but to strengthen your spirit. Every pause in your journey has purpose. Every delay carries divine timing within it. When you learn to trust God's process, panic loses its power. You begin to see that the same God who made the promise is also managing the preparation. God never distributes blessings carelessly. He searches the heart. He examines the motives. He measures whether your capacity can handle increase without losing humility. He wants to know if you can stay faithful when the spotlight finds you and grateful when abundance overflows. Many ask for more, but few understand that more brings greater responsibility, deeper discipline, and fuller surrender. God blesses those who are willing to protect the blessing, not misuse it. If He detects pride rising, He will humble you. If He notices distraction growing, He will prune you, not to punish, but to prepare you to carry greatness without crumbling beneath it. And when your life comes into alignment with His will, blessings will begin to pursue you. You won't need to chase what heaven has already assigned to your name. It will find you because it is connected to your obedience. Too many people chase blessings instead of pursuing God. But the mystery of divine favor is this: when you pursue God, blessings pursue you. The greatest preparation for blessing is not strategy, not networking, not skill. It is closeness with God. When your heart remains near Him, you will never miss what belongs to you. His direction will lead you into opportunities you could never design for yourself. His wisdom will unlock doors that no human influence could open. There will be moments when you see others receiving their blessings and wonder, when will it be my turn? But comparison is the thief of peace. God's timing for your life is not tied to another person's journey. He has a season specifically marked for you. You cannot hurry it, and no one can take it. The blessing destined for your name will never be transferred to another. Trust that God is not only preparing the blessing, He is preparing you to handle it. And when both are complete, the alignment will be unmistakable. Sometimes preparation arrives clothed in discomfort. God allows storms not to break you, but to build you. The storm teaches complete dependence on Him, When everything familiar collapses, you discover that He is your constant anchor. The winds may roar, the waves may crash, but the same God who led you into the storm will bring you safely through it. Do not fear the shaking. It is evidence that something stable is being formed beneath you. God will never permit a storm to touch your life unless it carries a divine lesson within it. You might not see the purpose now, but every trial carries a message written by the hand of God. There are times when He will remove what you believed you couldn't live without. You may grieve the loss, but one day you'll realize it was never meant to remain. Some blessings require empty hands. God cannot fill what is already occupied. He cannot pour new oil into an old vessel. So He empties you not to leave you broken, but to make room for something greater, purer, stronger. What you lost was preparation for what is coming. The hands that once held pain will soon hold promise. The heart that once broke will soon overflow with joy unshakable. When God is preparing you for blessings, He will also test your loyalty. He will watch to see if you stay faithful in hidden seasons. Can you still pray when the audience disappears? Can you still believe when nothing looks like the promise? God is not moved by performance. He is drawn by consistency. It's easy to praise Him when life shines, but true faith is proven in the dark. When you keep walking with God, even when you cannot trace His hand, you reveal that your faith is genuine. It is in those unseen places that destiny is formed. Private obedience always precedes public reward. God searches for hearts anchored in Him, not in what He gives. If your faith collapses when blessings delay, it was never rooted in God, it was rooted in reward. But when your faith stands unshaken through silence, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of vessel heaven can trust. God elevates those who endure pressure with patience and unwavering belief. Every test you overcome builds strength that no one can take from you. And when your blessing finally arrives, you will carry it with grace, because you have been refined in the fire of waiting. Another clear sign that God is preparing you is when He begins aligning your desires with His will. The things you once longed for lose their pull. Your ambitions begin to shift. You no longer chase validation, you pursue virtue. You no longer pray merely for possessions, you pray for wisdom. You no longer ask for comfort, you ask for clarity. This is the mark of spiritual maturity. When your desires begin to mirror God's heart, blessings flow naturally. You stop requesting what seems pleasing and begin receiving what is truly right. And when your will and His will intertwine, your life moves with peace, power, and purpose. When God starts preparing you, He transforms the way you perceive life. Suddenly, what others call coincidence, you recognize as confirmation. What others see as delay, you discern as divine design. You start noticing heavenly patterns woven into your daily moments, encounters that feel purposeful, conversations that feel guided, opportunities that appear with perfect timing. That is not luck, it is divine orchestration. God begins fine-tuning your spirit so you can hear His whisper even amid the noise. You start trusting the unseen hand leading you even when you cannot foresee the destination. That trust isn't blind, it's born from experience. You've seen God intervene too many times to doubt Him now. There is strength in endurance. There is beauty in steadfastness. When others fall away because the path feels too demanding, you must choose to stand firm. Because those who refuse to quit are the ones who witness God's faithfulness in ways beyond description. Sometimes the only difference between missing and receiving your blessing is the decision to keep going one more day, one more prayer, one more act of faith. God rewards persistence. When He sees a heart that refuses to give up, He begins to shift circumstances and move mountains on that person's behalf. During this season of preparation, God will teach you to silence every voice that feeds your doubt. Not everyone will understand your faith. Some will question your direction, criticize your conviction, or mock your belief in what they cannot see. But remember, God didn't speak to them, He spoke to you. They don't know the promise you've been holding. When God prepares you, He also trains you to walk quietly. Some blessings grow best in silence. You don't need to justify your steps or broadcast every move. Trust that God's results will speak louder than any explanation. When the blessing manifests, it will silence every critic without a word from your mouth. One of the most overlooked signs that God is preparing you is that your character deepens. You begin to develop a quiet strength that no longer depends on circumstance. You become less reactive and more discerning. The same things that once disturbed your peace no longer move you. You learn to respond with grace instead of react with emotion, to forgive instead of fight, to wait instead of worry. That transformation is not random. It bears the fingerprint of God shaping you from within. He is preparing you to manage blessings with wisdom rather than emotion, to master your spirit before you manage your surroundings. Because if you cannot master your heart, you cannot maintain your harvest. There will come a moment when you sense something shifting deep within. The anxiety that once consumed you will begin to dissolve. The restlessness that used to torment you will lose its hold, and in its place will rise a calm confidence, not arrogance, but peace. It is the quiet awareness that God is present, that His plan is unfolding precisely as intended, and that no power on earth can stop what He has already decreed. That confidence is not pride, it is assurance. You no longer chase after blessings, you draw them in because your spirit is aligned with divine timing. Sometimes preparation feels like breaking. God will dismantle what you built in your own strength so He can reconstruct it on His foundation. You might lose what once seemed essential, but that loss is not your ending. God never removes anything without the intention of replacing it with something greater. If He took it away, it's because it cannot accompany you where He's leading you. The breaking is not punishment, it's transformation. What looks like collapse is often the birthplace of revelation. When your plans unravel, it's because His greater plan is taking shape. God's blessings often arrive right after your deepest surrender. The moment you release control and declare, God, I trust you. Even when I don't understand, heaven begins to move on your behalf. Surrender is not weakness, it's strength guided by divine wisdom. It means you've stopped fighting the process and started resting in the promise. That rest is powerful. It allows God to take the lead where your effort ends, and when He takes over, everything shifts. You may not understand how it will unfold, but faith doesn't depend on sight, it depends on surrender. Faith declares, even in the dark, I believe light is near. Faith whispers, even in pain, purpose is being born. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains. That is the kind of faith that unlocks blessings no human hand can hinder. God honors those who continue believing when there is no visible reason to believe. When God prepares to bless you, even your opposition becomes part of His plan. Those who doubted you will witness your rise. Those who mocked your prayers will see the evidence of your faith. And you won't need revenge. You'll have redemption. Because when God promotes you, He does it so unmistakably that everyone recognizes it was His doing. No manipulation, no shortcuts, no compromise, just divine favor resting on your life. So do not despise the process. Do not resist the refining. Do not hurry the waiting. Every moment in God's hands carries purpose. The preparation season may feel lengthy, but it is never wasted. What He is building within you is eternal. And when the blessing finally arrives, it won't only transform your circumstances, it will transform your character. It will prove that every tear, every test, and every silent night of faith was worth it. Because when God blesses, He never blesses halfway. He blesses abundantly, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And when that blessing comes, you won't boast, you'll bow. You won't just thank God for what you received, you'll praise Him for who you became. For it was never about the gift, it was about the growth. Never about the reward, it was always about the relationship. God was preparing you not only to receive, but to reflect His glory in how you live, how you give, and how you love. And that, my friend, is the greatest blessing of all, to become a vessel through which God's goodness flows into the world around you. When God begins to usher you into a season of blessing, you'll notice He no longer lets you settle for what's small. What once satisfied you will begin to feel too limited for the spirit He's cultivating within you. You'll start craving growth, purpose, and truth in ways you never have before. This hunger is sacred. It's not ambition. It's alignment. God is expanding your capacity to receive what's coming. He is preparing something too vast to fit the old version of you. So He begins to stretch you, sometimes painfully, so that when the blessing arrives, it doesn't overwhelm you. The stretching may feel uncomfortable, but it's proof that God trusts you with more. There is a divine restlessness that accompanies preparation. You can't remain where you are, yet you don't fully see where you're going. You wake each day sensing that something is shifting within. Even if you can't define it, that stirring is sacred. It means God is awakening your spirit before He changes your situation. You may feel unstable because He's moving you from one level of faith to the next. You're outgrowing places, conversations, and even thought patterns. What once worked no longer fits. That's because God is tearing down the walls around your life so you can walk freely into a higher dimension of His plan. When God prepares you, He doesn't only adjust your surroundings, He transforms your vision. He opens your spiritual eyes to recognize possibilities that were once hidden. Suddenly, you begin to see divine opportunities disguised as ordinary moments. You find lessons in hardship, beauty in stillness, and purpose in pain. That's when you realize life was never random. Every meeting, every challenge, every closed door was part of God's orchestration. He wasn't withholding blessings, He was developing vision, because you can't step into what you cannot first see. Before He gives the blessing, He imparts vision. And with vision comes responsibility. Once you perceive God's hand over your life, you can no longer live carelessly. You start walking with intention, with gratitude, humility, and obedience. You begin to measure your choices by eternity, not convenience. Your words, your thoughts, and your actions become deliberate. Because you now recognize your life as sacred ground, you understand that blessings are not prizes, they are trusts. God blesses you so you can become a blessing. When that awareness takes root, your entire perspective changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin declaring, "Use me." Many people cry for blessings but resist the discipline required to sustain them. But God is preparing you not only to receive, but to maintain. What He gives must be protected. The same hands that receive must also be strong enough to hold. That's why the process feels so intense. God is teaching you stewardship. He is showing you how to handle abundance without letting pride or fear take hold. The blessing is not the destination, obedience is. Because obedience ensures the blessing will never destroy what it was meant to build. And when God prepares you, He also purifies your circle. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next season. Some people were vital for your journey, but not meant for your destination. It is not betrayal, it is graduation. There are people who were necessary for your development, but their role in your story is coming to an end. God will begin to show you who aligns with your destiny and who disrupts your peace. When certain people drift away, do not chase them. Let God handle the pruning. Every person who exits is an expression of His mercy. Some blessings require solitude. Some seasons call for separation. As you draw nearer to your promise, God will also begin to test your integrity in the smallest matters. How do you treat others when no one sees? How do you behave when given influence, opportunity, or authority? Can you be trusted with little before being trusted with much? God observes the hidden moments of your life because that's where your true nature is revealed. It's easy to appear faithful in public, but genuine faith is proven in private. Every act of humility, honesty, and compassion is noticed in heaven. And when your integrity is tested and remains steadfast, your blessing becomes inevitable. Do not confuse God's silence with His absence. The quietest seasons are often the most sacred ones. When you cannot hear His voice, rely on His character. Remember, the teacher remains silent during the test. That silence is not neglect, it is confidence that what He already taught you is enough for this moment. Silence produces maturity. It calls you to recall His past faithfulness when you cannot sense His present hand. And when the silence finally breaks, you realize He was active all along, preparing, arranging, shielding, and weaving every detail with divine precision. There will be moments when God allows you to walk through fire. But remember, fire does not destroy gold, it refines it. The heat you feel right now is burning away everything that cannot stay. Impatience, pride, fear, and dependency, all are being consumed so that only faith and strength remain. God never wastes fire. Every trial you endure in His presence becomes testimony. Every wound transforms into wisdom. Every scar becomes evidence that God sustained you through what was meant to consume you. You may feel like you're breaking, but in truth, you're being rebuilt. When God prepares you for blessing, He also deepens your gratitude. He allows seasons of lack so that abundance never becomes ordinary. He lets you taste weakness so you'll value strength. He lets you walk alone so that you'll cherish companionship. Every difficult season holds hidden treasures, and gratitude unlocks them. When you learn to thank God in scarcity, He can trust you with overflow. When you praise Him through pain, He can trust you with peace. Gratitude is not merely a reaction to blessing, it is preparation for more. You'll also recognize that God is preparing you when your dependence on Him becomes unshakable. There comes a point when you stop striving to control outcomes. You realize human wisdom has limits, plans can fail, and strength can fade, but God never fails. That awareness is not defeat, it is deliverance. When you release control, you make room for miracles. God does not bless the self-sufficient, He blesses the surrendered. When you whisper, God, I can't, but I know you can, you open the floodgates of divine intervention. And then comes the moment of perfect alignment. After all the waiting, all the pruning, all the refining, suddenly everything begins to align. Opportunities appear right on time. The right people cross your path. Doors that once resisted now open with ease. You realize that nothing was coincidence, that every delay was divine design, every hardship was a teacher, and every silence was preparation for this very moment. When the blessing arrives, it won't feel forced. It will fit perfectly because you've been shaped to receive it. Yet even in the moment of fulfillment, God examines your heart. Will you forget Him when favor finds you? Will comfort dull your devotion? Or will you remain just as dependent in abundance as you were in lack? God blesses those who remember that the source of every good gift is not themselves, it is Him. True prosperity isn't measured by how much you possess, but by the humility that recognizes who provided it. When you can carry blessings without being carried away by them, you are ready for increase that endures. Every season of preparation reveals a deeper truth about God. He is not just the giver of blessings, He is the blessing. When you learn to seek His presence more than His provision, you uncover a peace that no success, possession, or achievement can replicate. You understand that blessings may fade, but God's presence is everlasting. And in that realization, you discover the purest form of contentment, not in what you hold, but in who holds you. So if you are in the waiting, do not despair. If you are walking through fire, do not fear. If you are surrounded by silence, do not lose hope. These are not marks of neglect, they are the fingerprints of divine preparation. You are being positioned, purified, and strengthened for something greater than you can yet comprehend. The blessing you've been praying for isn't being denied, it's being perfected. When the appointed time comes, it won't just bless you. It will impact everything connected to you. Stay steadfast, stay surrendered. Keep your heart clean and your faith alive, because the moment you assume God has forgotten you is often the moment He is completing your miracle. The blessing is nearer than it appears. And when it comes, you will see that every trial was worth enduring. You will lift your eyes to heaven and know that God, in His infinite wisdom, had been preparing you all along for something that could only emerge through faith, endurance, and unwavering trust in Him. My friend, as you stand here today, remember this. The path to blessing is not a distant dream. It is unfolding even now. The storms you've endured, the nights you wept through, the days you could barely stand, none of it was wasted. God has seen every moment, every tear, every whispered prayer, every quiet surrender has been shaping you for a divine unveiling. When God prepares a soul for blessing, He doesn't do it through comfort, He does it through conviction. He shapes, molds, and refines until what remains is pure faith, steady, unshakable, and ready to bear the weight of His favor. Do not despise your waiting season. It is not punishment, it is positioning. God has been arranging the pieces of your life in ways still hidden from sight. While you thought He was silent, He was setting the stage. While you thought He was delaying, He was developing you. You see, God never entrusts great blessings to those unprepared to carry them. He doesn't pour oil into a broken vessel. He repairs, strengthens, and reshapes before He fills. If you are being stretched, it's because the blessing will exceed your imagination. If you are being tested, it means your foundation is being fortified for something remarkable. Many desire the blessing, but few are willing to endure the process that precedes it. They want the reward without the refining. But God isn't focused on offering temporary relief. He's cultivating eternal character. That's why He sometimes removes what you thought was essential so He can replace it with what will truly sustain you. That's why He sometimes shuts doors that looked right so He can open the one leading to destiny. Every disappointment has carried divine redirection. Every loss has held a hidden lesson. Every delay has been proof that God is still sovereign. So when your heart feels heavy and the journey seems long, lift your gaze to heaven and remember this: God never abandons the one He's preparing. He is nearer than you realize. When you feel broken, He is binding the pieces of your soul together for a greater purpose. When you feel overlooked, He is sheltering you in His shadow, protecting what He's perfecting. When you feel forgotten, He is whispering your name in the halls of destiny. God's blessings are never late. They arrive precisely when they're meant to, never a moment early, never a moment delayed. There will come a day when you'll look back and say, now I understand why it had to happen this way. The trials that broke you will become the testimony that uplifts others. The pain that humbled you will become the power that elevates you. God wastes nothing. Every hardship holds purpose when surrendered into His hands. He uses the wilderness to train your heart, the silence to tune your hearing, and the waiting to fortify your faith. The hands that once felt empty will one day overflow because you chose to trust when no reason remained except Him. So let your heart rise in faith today. Don't let fear or doubt steal what God has promised. If you're in the fire, remain steadfast. If you're walking through the valley, keep moving. If you face mountains that seem immovable, speak to them with the authority of faith. For the same God who delivered you before will do it again. The blessing isn't just coming, it's already written into the timeline of your destiny. God has decreed it, and no power on earth can undo what He has ordained. The question isn't, will God bless you? It's, will you stay faithful while He prepares you? Will you trust when you don't understand? Will you obey when it costs you comfort? Will you believe when there's no visible sign? Because faith that only stands in ease isn't faith, it's convenience. True faith endures when nothing makes sense because it knows this truth. God never fails. His record of faithfulness spans eternity, and He has never once broken a promise. Look closely at your journey, you'll see His fingerprints everywhere. Every closed door was protection. Every delay was preparation. Every detour was direction from a God who never wastes a single step. Every tear you've shed has watered the soil for tomorrow's harvest. You are not behind, you are being aligned. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. And when God moves, He will move suddenly. Blessings that took years to develop will unfold in an instant. Doors that once stood sealed will open effortlessly before you. The same God who sustained you through the storm will now lift you into the sunlight of His goodness. So let this be your prayer. God, I trust your timing. I may not understand your plan, but I know you are working all things for my good. Even when I cannot see, I will believe. Even when I am weary, I will stand. Even when it hurts, I will remain faithful because I know you are preparing me for something greater than I can imagine. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of surrender attracts blessings like a magnet. When God finds a heart that refuses to quit, He releases favor that cannot be hindered. Let your soul awaken to this truth. You are standing on sacred ground. Even in your waiting, God is forming something eternal within you. The blessing isn't only what you will receive, it is who you are becoming through the process. Your faith is being refined, your spirit is being fortified, and your future is being written by the very hand of God. So stand strong, hold steady, keep your gaze fixed on Him. Because when the season changes, when the clouds lift and the light of His promise breaks through, you will see that every tear, every pause, every trial was worth it. God will reward your endurance. He will honor your obedience. And He will fulfill every word He has spoken over your life. Now walk forward with your head high and your heart unwavering. God is not finished with you. He is still preparing you. Every moment from this day forward is part of that divine process. So live with anticipation, speak with bold faith, and move with holy confidence. The same God who carried you through the storm is now guiding you toward abundance. The doors of favor are already unlocking, and your heart refined, strengthened, and ready is about to receive what it was created for. Trust Him completely, walk in humility, and let your life proclaim this eternal truth. God is faithful, and His blessings never fail.